Hey everyone, welcome back to our series called Quants Worth Following. This is a fairly new series we're doing where we're talking to people in the industry who deserve more recognition, who are posting very amazing content in the quant trading world. And today we have with us a really awesome guest. Her name is Judith Gu. Judith is the managing director and the head of quantitative equities strategist at Scotiabank. Judith oversees North America equities quant trading for both the US and Canada, specializing in data-driven, systematic, real-time market making, trading risk management, and alpha generation. Prior to joining Scotiabank, she was an equity strat at Goldman Sachs and worked in both quantitative asset management and in the equities market making desk for 16 years. And she has a total of 25 plus years of experience in the industry. So we're really excited to have you here with us today, Judith. Maybe the first question I would just jump right in and ask you about is the first thing I always like to ask is look, there's a lot of stereotypes affiliated with quants. What are some unusual things about your work or your background that people may be surprised to hear?
Oh, sure. Yeah. First of all, thank you so much, Christina, for inviting me to the show and spending time with me. So that's a great question. I would think one of the most surprising fact when people learn about me is I actually did not go to a big name engineering school for college. I went to a liberal arts women college in a very sleepy town called Troy, New York. The school I went to was at Russell Sage Women College. And to me, the school was like my first family in this country, just coming to this country to go to school the first time, leaving my home country of Shanghai in China. The school was more than just a college to me. It was like a first home to me. And I majored in computer science and accounting there. I did indeed do a science major in the liberal arts women college. And post that, I started technical job on Wall Street. And picking up from there, I eventually did get a master's degree in finance and a master's degree in what we call back then called data mining, but it was really the modern day data science. That's 20 plus years ago. And in statistics, I took off my quant career from there. So I think the most surprising thing is I wasn't in big engineering school background, but ended up working a lot in the quant industry.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I think you're right. I think people would probably be very surprised to hear that. I'm curious maybe about your day to day as well. Let's say the divide between whether that's meetings or research, writing, trading, etc.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, so that's a great question again. So I actually have a pretty fortunate day-to-day balance. My day-to-day balance of day-to-day work is actually pretty well balanced between research and collaborations with others, and as well as just looking at live cases of tradings that's out of our expectations, like the outliers. So there are days I can focus more time on the research. That's probably more than about half time of the week, which I consider pretty lucky to be able to focus on research and just going through the back testings and think through the space. Other times I spend on collaborating. There are days that's just meeting heavy. That's for sure. But it's all good meetings. We reduced our useless meetings to very near zero, which is a very fortunate thing with our team and the group. So yeah, so collaborations with other researchers from other parts of the bank, not necessarily equities, but also fixed income and currency, and also liaison with other outstanding data scientists from research firms and just listening to the new approaches, like how do they solve a problem in a better way. And also looking at in our live learning systems, some of the outliers, how do we identify them and how do we actually catch them in real time space. So it's a good feedback loop back into research.
Wow, I'm surprised to hear how collaborative it sounds. It sounds like
Yeah.
you're liaising across multiple teams and looking across whether that's data scientists or researchers, whether that's other firms or your own firm. It sounds like there's quite a lot of work to do on that front, which is really exciting and maybe something people don't anticipate or didn't expect on the job.
For sure. I think we have a very collaborative environment, a lot of attributed to the bank culture. And I would attribute to my team. I have a great team, a very small team, but very efficient. And we really just get down to the business, talking very transparently on the issues and the thoughts, but not wasting time on other things. And definitely senior leadership as well. They see the need in the space and they're very supportive. They're cautious and question things quite a bit, which is the right thing to do, which is the right way to grow the space that has lots of uncertainties in itself.
Exactly. On a sort of related question, I'm curious, what are some of the things that, let's say if you're hiring more people on your team, what kinds of skill sets do you look for? I would just love to learn more about that because a lot of people who are watching are potentially looking to switch roles or to enter the industry for the first time. And as we probably have seen over the years, it's gotten a little bit more difficult to apply to these jobs and get in. Now that you're on the other side of the table on the hiring side, what are some of the skill sets that you would look for in your teammates?
Yeah, sure. Great question. So we definitely start with the hard skill sets in math and coding. So it's still the two major areas we focus on. The person has to be able to pick up like good coding habits. Doesn't have to be fancy, but good coding habits and understanding a problem and quickly and break it down to very scientific components and as well as respond in a reasonable way. And as well, good mathematics framework thinking. So definitely these two hard skills. That's the first cut for sure. And then in addition to that, we do look for collaborative personalities and openness and just a way of engaging and also passionate and curious about their work. We're looking for people who have an ownership mindset instead of I'm here to do a job you tell me to do. So we're definitely ownership so they can like drive their project and drive the quality of their product.
It's interesting how for us as a startup, we look for exactly pretty much almost the same thing. Ownership, right? The ability to communicate as well. And for us, I realized during the interview process, ownership is one of the hardest things for us to get a good sense of, right? During the interview, everyone is excited. They all will say, hey, I take good ownership. But, for us, well, there's a few examples. I don't know if you look for similar things, which is, for example, if it's a more junior level person, we look for, let's say if they participate in any related clubs after school, that might be like a trading related club or quant club, data related club. And it's like quality over quantity. Like if they do something really good and focus on one club and they're, take a lot of ownership of that versus being spread apart and doing 7 different things, but not really having a good focus on one thing. So yeah, it's great that you mentioned the level of ownership because I think that's really important. And also it also helps us understand genuine interest, maybe that helps a lot, right? Because these days, every other student studies computer science in order to see who's truly interested in the field versus who's just studying it because their parents said that's what you should study today and everybody's studying today, right? And so the ones who are interested, I think they do projects on the side and things like that. But yeah, curious what you've noticed too.
Yeah, 100%. You have to have an internal drive, something you feel that you have passion with. So you can keep driving yourself. As opposed to if I hear like some of the red flags I will be hearing is if the person responds as, oh, it depends on how management motivates me. That's actually a red flag to me because when we enter workforce, we're all adults, right? We have to, even we can be young adults, but we're still adults. We need to drive ourselves, right? So, yeah.
Yep, exactly. I agree. And it's also like the less I have to be a cheerleader, I think it's exhausting to have to motivate myself, nonetheless, a second person on the team. And so being intrinsically motivated and excited about work, I think can make a very big difference on the team. Absolutely. So great. Thanks for sharing. I guess I would love to learn about, in this industry as well. Maybe what are some of your favorite books, videos, podcasts, newsletters, anything that you've enjoyed lately?
Oh yeah, definitely. I have a very long list of a podcast I listen to, like alternatively. But if I have to pick the top 3, the first one is a Flirting with Models with a Corey Hofstein. The second one, the run-up, it will be like Access Return with a Jake Forehand, and also Masters in Business with Barry Ritholtz. Yeah. So these are top 3, but I occasionally listen to Lex Friedman. His podcast tends to be a bit long, but occasionally I do listen to him. It's very enlightening. And I definitely start my day with a Wall Street breakfast.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing. I will definitely check those out. And then speaking of which as well, is there any career advice in general that you would give to people who are entering the quant industry today?
Yeah, I'm going to borrow a line from Lisa Su, the CEO of AMD. She recently said, so what skills are not going to go out of fashion? And the skill always comes back to figure out how to think on your own. Like how to think through a problem, how to be comfortable of being alone and just solving the problem on your own. So it may not be mathematical problem alone may not just be a storytelling. I think in the quant field, it's a very multidisciplinary field. So to figure out your parameters, to figure out the problem you're solving, and don't be afraid of making mistakes, but still solving it through. Don't be afraid of hitting barriers and not being able to solve it through on a day, but just keep coming back and learning the skills you need to learn and to keep going. I think that will hopefully not go out of fashion with all the other technology, disruptive technologies we're having. Yeah.
No, I totally agree. And it's something we've noticed too. Sometimes these kinds of what quant research kind of role can get, it can be lonely. It can also be very collaborative at the same time,
Yes.
depending on the team. And so knowing how to manage that, how to manage your time alone to be more effective, but also your time with your teammates so that you're all working well together. I think all of those are super important facets of the roles.
It's really a mixture of both, and just being able to know how to navigate through both and just be more effective with your time is a very big driver to a successful ending or process.
Absolutely. What trends do you think will happen with our industry over this next decade or so?
Oh God, where do I start? It's there's so much good things and bad things and noise and real content coming up in our industry on a daily basis, leaps and bounds these days. If I compare to what we were doing 10, 15 years ago, it's really a lot of technologies. It's on steroids, right? It's really like machine learning is really lots of good algos and faster processings, but still using the basic techniques of optimizations. But then how do we actually position ourselves to keep learning through the disruptive technologies, but also grounding us on the basic fundamental skill sets and keep being solid on the foundational skills? I think that's still the question for the next wave of quants.
Absolutely agreed. That's a wonderful answer, by the way. I think you're totally correct on that. And, what's interesting, I do feel like the skill sets and the requirements in terms of how to enter the industry have changed a lot. But I think in order to succeed in the industry, it has actually stayed, it's always the basic skills of like having taking ownership, communicating, things like
Yeah.
that, right? But whereas
Yeah.
as it gets more competitive today, as computer science becomes more mainstream of a field everyone studies, then it's about how to stand out in that world, whether that's creating projects on your own or doing other things, to get in. But yeah, so it's great.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as quants, we'll be hearing a lot of other questions that coming even faster and furious as speed at us, such as why don't you use a Gen AI? Why don't you use deep learning? How does a large language model helping you solving your problems or selecting your features? So those questions will come in at a bigger speed and with a large enormity of momentum. So I think we just need to know what's actually going on internally with those technologies to be confident.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And many companies, I think, still don't know what the role of AI is within, especially language learning models. How do we implement it? What are the risks? But I think it's
Yeah.
still right. It's important to know and to be on top of what's going on, and having
Yeah.
that skill set will help more than harm. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing. Well, that's actually all of my questions. But if there's any topic that you would like to bring up or anything you feel like we didn't cover yet, I would love to talk about that as well if we can, or we can end this here if you'd like as well.
Yeah, those are great topics. Pretty much covered the widths and depths of what I was thinking. So thank you again for those questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone for listening in. And yeah, we'll follow up with everyone next time on a different guest for the series, and we'll go from there. So thank you, Judith, again for being a part of this show. And we will look forward to seeing many great things from you and great content. And by the way, I should also mention that I enjoy following Judith personally on LinkedIn. I think your content is amazing and is super helpful for the industry. So please do consider adding her, following her over on LinkedIn. And where else are you? Are you mostly posting on LinkedIn or other like forum?
Yeah, that's my only social media.
Okay.
I was joking, like if everyone else was like me, there'd be no Facebook.
Cool.
So
Sounds
yeah.
cool. Cool. So yeah,
Okay,
we'll
thank
see
you so much,
you over on
Christina.
LinkedIn. Yeah, and we'll talk to you hopefully soon.
Likewise, I learned so much from you and your team. So thank you
Awesome.
for doing an
Thanks,
amazing
Judith.
job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.